So you're looking to invest your Stardust in Pokemon Go, but you don't want to invest into something that you're only going to use for one thing. So today we're going to break down the top 16 best value investments in Pokemon Go. This includes Pokemon that have uses as different types of attackers, as attackers and in PvP, and overall have the most general uses out of that investment, meaning that you're for sure getting value out of all these Pokemon. Let's get right into it, starting with the first 8, which are going to be the non-legendary Pokemon for anyone who doesn't have a lot of those legendary candies and is looking for something more budget. Starting off with the first one here, which we're going to mention, which is going to be Roserade. Now, Roserade has use as 2 different types of attackers, that being both grass and poison type. As a grass type raid attacker, it's going to be ranked overall number 9, giving it some value as a grass type, and it's going to be ranked number 3 overall as a poison type. This Pokemon can also be run in the Master Premier Cup, rank 75, but overall it's going to be more for raids. Nonetheless, you are getting double value out of this raid attacker, powering up one Pokemon for 2 different types. By the way, to use Pokemon as 2 different types of raid attackers, you're going to want to add a second move, which if you don't know on any Pokemon, you can click new attack. And then as you can see here, for example, this right here, you have Rock Wrecker and Earthquake as the charge moves, and simply change out the fast move to Mud Slap to use as a ground type raid attacker, and then we'll just switch it right back to Smackdown as a rock type. Same thing goes with Roserade. Moving on into the next one, which is going to be Chandelure and Shadow Chandelure. Now, Shadow is obviously going to be better here, but Chandelure is good as both a fire and a ghost type raid attacker. As far as a fire type raid attacker, you're going to be looking at the number 7 overall fire type raid attacking Pokemon. By the way, this is not including any megas in my rankings, but it is including Shadows. As far as a ghost type raid attacker, Shadow Chandelure is actually the number 1 overall ghost type raid attacker, so definitely worth investing in. Unfortunately, Chandelure doesn't see a lot of PvP play, but again, powering up a Chandelure, you're getting 2 types of raid attackers in one, so it's a great investment. Next up, we'll talk about Weavile, and specifically Shadow Weavile. Weavile can be used as both a dark and an ice type raid attacker in Pokemon Go, being the number 4 overall dark type raid attacker in Pokemon Go, not including megas, and the number 2 overall ice type raid attacker in Pokemon Go. So overall, again, a great investment. You're not running this one for PvP, but you are getting 2 attackers out of 1 power up. Again, just switch the fast move. Let's talk about something though with a little more PvP and raid attacking play, and that's going to be Excadrill. Excadrill is always one of the first Pokemon I always recommend everybody power up because it has 3 uses in my opinion. First of all, Excadrill, and specifically Shadow Excadrill, is going to be a great ground type raid attacker, actually being number 3 overall as a ground type raid attacker in Pokemon Go, the Shadow form. Also, Excadrill does see play in the Master League, so definitely a Pokemon to go ahead and use for that, being ranked 81 in the Shadow form, and then also good in the Master Premier Cup where there's no legendaries allowed, being ranked 36 in the regular form. But I also see a third value in Excadrill, and that's against Team Go Rocket Grunts. Excadrill is great at taking down Team Go Rocket Grunts and leaders and all that stuff, so you get a lot of value out of it there. Overall, Excadrill, a great Pokemon to power up, a great investment because you get a lot out of it. On the topic of ground types, we can also talk about, of course, Rhyperior, which we showed earlier in the video. Rhyperior is a great ground type raid attacker, it's going to be a good rock type raid attacker, and it's going to be good in the Master League. As far as a ground type raid attacker, talking about the Shadow form here, better than the regular form, you're looking at the number 7 overall ground type raid attacking Pokemon. As far as rock types goes, you're actually looking at the number 1 overall rock type raid attacking Pokemon. Do note you do need Rock Wrecker on your Rhyperiors, which is a legacy move, so you're gonna have to use an Elite Charge Gem or wait for an event where you can evolve to get that move. But then also Rhyperior does see play in the Master League, although not as much anymore because Breaking Swipe did get nerfed. It's gonna be ranked 75 in the Master League, and it's gonna be ranked 21 in the Master League Premier Cup where no legendaries are allowed. A lot of value out of Rhyperior. Again, the Shadow form is gonna be preferred for raids, but the regular form will be a bit better for the Master League. Overall though, you can definitely just power up a regular one and use it for everything and get a lot of value out of it that way. Now we're getting into the top 3, I think, most useful Pokemon to power up that are not legendaries. And the first one here is going to be Gardevoir. Gardevoir and Shadow Gardevoir are great raid attackers in Pokemon Go. Shadow Gardevoir is actually the number 2 overall fairy type raid attacker in Pokemon Go, and the number 10 overall psychic type raid attacker in Pokemon Go. And also, of course, Gardevoir does have a mega form in Pokemon Go. So definitely a great Pokemon to power up. Like a regular Gardevoir, you're gonna get value out of it as a psychic, fairy, and then you can also mega evolve it to get even more power out of it. Next up, let's talk about Mamoswine, one of my favorite Pokemon to power up. Mamoswine and Shadow Mamoswine are great Pokemon specifically for raids, being the number 1 overall ice type raid attacker in Pokemon Go, the Shadow form that is, regular form not so far behind, and the number 6 overall ground type raid attacker in Pokemon Go for raids. Also, Mamoswine does see play in the Master League, being ranked 35, and in the Master Premier Cup being ranked 23. So overall, powering up a Mamoswine is great. You're getting value out of it as a ground, as an ice type, and in the Master League. This is actually one of the only Pokemon my mom has powered up, but she gets a lot of value out of it. And then finally, I think the best Pokemon to power up in terms of value that is not a legendary is going to be Garchomp. Garchomp and Shadow Garchomp does see play as a ground type raid attacker, with the Shadow version being the number 2 overall ground type raid attacker in Pokemon Go. As a Dragon type raid attacker, Shadow Garchomp does see the number 3 spot, which is not even bad overall, and the regular version works just as well. Like obviously a little worse, but still very good. And then Garchomp does see play in the Master League, of course, ranked 39 in the regular form and gonna be ranked 9 in the Master Premier Cup. Finally, Garchomp, of course, does have a Mega form in the game, which is a very, very strong Mega. You can go ahead and Mega Evolve and get use out of it that way as well. So overall, I think Garchomp, if you're gonna power up one non-legendary Pokemon in Pokemon Go and get the most value out of it, it's gonna be Garchomp. It's a very, very useful Pokemon. I find myself using it a lot. Do note though, you do need Legacy Earth Power on it, which is a Legacy move, so you'd have to make sure you grab that with an Elite TM or by evolving it during a special event. Okay, that is the non-legendary top 8 Pokemon. Now let's run through the legendary top 8 Pokemon that you'll get the most value out of. First one I'm gonna mention here is going to be Terrakion. Now Terrakion with the moveset of Sacred Sword, which is a Legacy Charge move on it, can be used as the #1 fighting type raid attacker in Pokemon Go by a landslide. It is an absolute beast. But then also, if you throw on Rock Slide as a secondary move and change its fast move, you can also use Terrakion as a rock type raid attacker. Gonna be ranked number 8 overall. So overall, a lot of use out of Terrakion. Unfortunately, not as much PvP use. It is still a very strong Pokemon. If you have a Terrakion powered up, you probably do find yourself using it pretty often. Next up, we're gonna talk about Moltres, the Kanto version of Moltres, specifically the Shadow Kanto version of Moltres. Kanto Moltres for a long time has been the #1 flying type raid attacker in Pokemon Go until Rayquaza came out. So right now it's number 2 overall as a flying type raid attacker, but you do need the Legacy Sky Attack moveset on the Shadow Moltres. However, of course, that's not the only value you'll get out of this Pokemon, because this Pokemon is also still very good as a fire type raid attacker, being ranked number 5 overall as a fire type raid attacker in Pokemon Go. So overall, powering up a Shadow Moltres, double moving it with Sky Attack, Overheat, and then changing that fast move, a lot of value out of the Pokemon. I have a couple of those powered up as well, and I'm always find myself using them. Next up, we gotta talk about Yveltal, which arguably I didn't really want to put on this list, but it does get a lot of use. Now, Yveltal can be used as a dark and a flying type raid attacker, although it's not the best in both categories. As a dark type raid attacker, it's going to be the number 7 overall, which is not bad. And then in terms of flying type, it's actually gonna be number 3 overall, which is pretty good. But that's mostly what Yveltal's got going for it. You can run it in the Master League. It's gonna be ranked 42. However, it's not a Pokemon I see very commonly. Not a lot of people run it. Also, Yveltal does need its legacy move Oblivion Wing to get this value out as a flying type raid attacker and in the Master League. That is something you're gonna have to Elite TM onto that Pokemon or catch it in raids with that move. Overall though, again, a lot of value out of this Pokemon, but it's not gonna be as strong as some of the other ones on this list. Next up, we gotta talk about Zekrom. Zekrom and honestly the Gen 5 Pokemon are just very good. Zekrom can of course be used as an electric type raid attacker, gonna be ranked number 3 overall, which is very good, but you do need the Legacy Fusion Bolt on this Pokemon to get that ranking. You can also of course use Zekrom as a dragon type raid attacker, gonna be ranked number 12 overall. Don't let the super high ranking for dragon type raid attackers fool you. It's still very strong. It's just that there's so many strong dragons, so it's kind of a hard competition there. And then in the Master League, it's gonna be ranked at number 17, so a lot of value there. Now my issue though with Zekrom is that you do need Fusion Bolt on it to get the electric type ranking it needs, but in PvP you want Wild Charge on it, so it's kind of this weird situation where you kind of need 2 Zekroms. You need one for raids, one for PvP. You can of course still run Fusion Bolt and Crunch in PvP on your Zekroms, but it might not be the best compared to Wild Charge. Overall though, a lot of value out of that Pokemon if you do power it up. At minimum, you're getting 2 types of attackers, which is amazing. However, I do sway the Gen 5 usefulness over to Reshiram, because Reshiram, you get a lot of value out of this Pokemon. It's going to be ranked number 1 overall as a fire type raid attacker, so very strong. It's going to be ranked number 13 overall as a dragon type raid attacker, and it's going to be ranked number 25 in the Master League. So a lot of value out of this Pokemon. Again, you do need the legacy move Fusion Flare on this Pokemon to get the full value out of it, but it's going to be a very strong Pokemon, definitely worth grabbing and powering up because you just get so much value out of it. And this brings us into our top 3, the top 3 most useful Pokemon in Pokemon Go, in terms of legendaries at least, which legendaries are just more useful. And I'm gonna have to give the number 3 spot to a tie between Dialga in the origin form and Dialga in the altered form. Now, Dialga is known as one of the best typed Pokemon in Pokemon Go, with the Dragon and Steel type is an amazing defensive typing. Dialga sees play both the origin form and the regular form as a Steel type raid attacker, being ranked number 4 and number 5 overall. The regular form, the altered form, is a little bit better than the origin form. Then as a Dragon type raid attacker, the origin form is actually gonna be ranked number 5 overall, which is very good. And the altered form is gonna be ranked number 12 overall. Finally, in the Master League, you're gonna see the origin form ranked 19 and the altered form, the regular form, ranked 32. So overall, I do have to sway a little bit into the origin form having more use than the altered form. But again, not everybody has the origin form, and you do need Roar of Time on your Dialga origin form for it to get this ranking. So if you don't have that, the altered form is still a great Pokemon to power up and definitely worth an investment into. Overall, honestly as well, very good for Team Go Rocket Grunts, because again, this thing just has such a great typing, so many resistances, it's very, very useful. And finally, that brings us to the number 2 spot, which I'm going to have to give to the Dragon of the Skies, Rayquaza. Rayquaza is a super, super strong Pokemon in Pokemon Go, arguably one of the best and arguably one of the most useful. Let's go through it. First of all, as a Dragon type raid attacker, Rayquaza is going to see the number 8 overall spot, actually being ranked number 2 in terms of non-Shadow Pokemon, so it's only behind one other Pokemon. And you don't even need Legacy moves for it to get this ranking. Dragon Tail Outrage works fine. As far as a Flying type raid attacker, Rayquaza is going to be the number 1 overall Flying type raid attacker in Pokemon Go. You do need Dragon Ascent on your Rayquaza to get this ranking, which you do need a Meteorite to get that, which is kind of annoying because you have to do the Rayquaza raids and randomly get a Meteorite, which is kind of lucky. And then finally, the Master League is going to be ranked 59 overall. Rayquaza unfortunately got a little bit nerfed because Breaking Swipe got nerfed, but still a Pokemon you can still run in the Master League, have some success with it. But I think I'm going to give the most usefulness to Rayquaza because it can literally be used in the Mega form as any type of raid attacker. Because Mega Rayquaza has such a high attack stat, it is literally has the highest damage per second in Pokemon Go with Dragon Tail and Dragon Ascent, above the Mega Mewtwo's, which are not even in Pokemon Go yet. So that's why, even if you're not doing super effective damage, Mega Rayquaza can be used as a raid attacker from almost any single type. Generally not if it's being resisted. Like if you're going up against a Steel type, you probably won't see Mega Rayquaza. But if you're doing neutral damage, Mega Rayquaza is probably a top counter. Again, Dragon Tail, Dragon Ascent on your Mega Rayquaza, and you can literally use it to do insane amounts of damage. But that does not compare to, of course, the GOAT of Pokemon Go, the GOAT of usefulness and multi-value, I don't even know if that's a word, Mewtwo and Shadow Mewtwo. Yes, Mewtwo is such a goated Pokemon in Pokemon Go, and if you have the candies, I 100% recommend powering one up. Let's go through why. Obviously, not including Megas, Shadow Mewtwo, the number 1 overall Psychic type raid attacker in Pokemon Go, and regular Mewtwo is going to be the number 2 overall Psychic type raid attacker in Pokemon Go. You do need Legacy Psy Strike though on your Mewtwo. Do note that that's going to take an Elite Charge TM or get one from trade or something. Mewtwo can also be used as a Ghost type raid attacker if you give its Legacy move Shadow Ball, which is amazing, especially the Shadow form. I think it's like number 4 or 3 or 4 overall Ghost type raid attacker. It's busted. But then also Mewtwo can learn Flamethrower, it can learn Ice Beam, it can learn Thunderbolt. Throw those moves on a Shadow Mewtwo and you literally have a Fire type raid attacker. You literally have an Electric type raid attacker. You literally have an Ice type raid attacker if you give it Ice Beam. So overall, Mewtwo gets so much value as a raid attacker. I've literally used Mewtwo's with Ice Beams against Rayquaza and I'm doing more damage than most people in raids. So definitely go ahead and do that. Finally, of course, Mewtwo is cooking in the Master League. Shadow Mewtwo is going to be ranked 13. Regular Mewtwo is going to be ranked 15 overall. So overall, the Master League is where Mewtwo holds strong with Psycho Cut, Psy Strike, and Shadow Ball as its moveset. But again, you can run Psycho Cut, Psy Strike, and Ice Beam, surprise a bunch of people. I've done it. It's amazing. Finally, of course, Mewtwo does have that Mega form. It's not in Pokemon Go yet, but when it does come, Mewtwo's value is going to like tenfold because again, you can now have a Mega Mewtwo Y, which can be a raid attacker for almost every single type. Throw Ice Beam on a Mega Mewtwo Y and it'll probably be a better Ice type raid attacker than a Mamoswine. It is literally that strong. It literally has that much DPS. So again, try to get the best IV Mewtwo you can, power it up as much as you can, throw on Psy Strike, throw on a secondary move, and you'll get so much value out of that Pokemon. And that is it, guys. That is the top 16 highest value Pokemon in Pokemon Go. If you enjoyed this video, check out the one below. You will enjoy that one as well. And we'll see you guys in there. Follow for more tips. Peace.